Welcome back, everybody. So as you can kind of tell, I've been on a little bit of a Ben 10 kick recently. So I wanted to continue that trend with what I believe are the top 10 strongest characters in the Ben 10 universe, with a few ground rules. The first one being I have not watched the reboot. So if there is a character that a lot of you believe should make this list because of the reboot, I'm fine with you altering it that way. I just don't have that knowledge, and I don't want to pretend to be like, oh, I know there's an Alien X in there, but I think he gets defeated by four arms. So by that logic, Alien X should not be as strong anymore or as high as it is on the list. Secondly, I do put some just general species on the list in certain instances. For instance, I feel like this is a given, but Celestial Sapiens are on our list as a whole. So it's not like I'm just picking one, because then the whole list would just be hypothetically 10 Celestial Sapiens, just the 10 we see in the Forge of Creation. We don't know their names. And then the Alien X Gladiator that we see in Omniverse. So I'm just putting like a full-on race in that instance, or species in that instance, just to make the list more diverse. And the third one is a character can only come up on this list once, and they are in their strongest form, in my opinion. So with all that being said, there will be a few honorable mentions and a few things I'll explain later on. But into the list. So at the 10th spot, we have the strongest version of Vilgax. Vilgax with Dagon's power. And I feel like it's not a shocker to say Dagon will be higher on this list. And I know 10 might be a little low for this Vilgax, but he had the power for, at best, an hour. Realistically, it was closer to like 10 to 15 minutes. So he definitely couldn't use it as well. So he doesn't have the experience with the power. And while there's definitely other Vilgax versions, such as Malgax from Omniverse, or other strong characters who I have in the honorable mention section later on, I do believe that just the sheer power of what Dagon is automatically puts Vilgax with his power onto this list. I mean, these are more feats for Dagon, but realistically, he's conquered 100 dimensions. It cannot be understated. I think had Vilgax have been able to keep the power and just, let's say, kill the main characters in the Ultimate Alien finale, and then start training for a little bit, I would argue he's probably become toe-to-toe with Dagon. I think Dagon's probably stronger because he has access to magic and other stuff like that, but overall, yeah, I think 10 is a solid spot for him. Moving on to number 9, we have Sir George, the person who defeated the Dagon, and also got defeated by the Dagon the second time around. And he only defeats the Dagon because Dagon is literally underestimating him the first time. However, it cannot be stated how powerful this sword of Azimuth is. It is so powerful it can cut holes in dimensions, allowing him to teleport, so to speak. He can make slashes that both damage the Dagon and like literally absorb energy, I believe. He also can literally use it to enhance his physical strength and speed enough that he's able to at least stop fast tracks. Now, when fast tracks does like realistically it stops, it's a lot harder for George to hit him. So maybe he wasn't going full speed, or he adapted to George's speed at that point. But it shouldn't be understated how powerful George is here. He's able to defeat Humongosaur. He is able to defeat Kevin and Gwen. He was able to defeat the Dagon. Even if it was underestimating him, it doesn't matter. The fact is that he was able to do that, and the sword is very powerful. So much so that while I think the Omnitrix is stronger out of the two because of the stronger aliens within it, Asmus is like, this sword has no benefit outside of war, and I will just bury it forever, essentially. And it was sealed, holding the Dagon's heart for a long time. And then once the Dagon was defeated and end of Ultimate Alien, we never see the sword again in Omniverse. Nobody ever tries to steal it. We can assume Asmus either destroys it, or that's in like the most secure place on probably not even on Galvin Prime, because like he doesn't even want someone to find it. It might be on like Primus for all we know. But the fact that Asmus thinks this highly of this sword, I feel like should warrant George on this list. I feel you could argue he's 10 with like a more understanding and Vilgax, but this is George is an immortal. So he realistically has so much fighting experience and prowess on top of the sword that he used to fight someone who's higher on this list. Enough said. That's why he's at number 9. Moving on to number 8, we have Eon. I feel like Eon definitely deserves to be on this list. I mean, some of his feats are really powerful. He's able to literally remove aliens from Ben's Omnitrix. Like, that is a feat in its own right. Obviously, Ben 10,000 was there, and he just fixes it by the end of the episode. But assuming Ben actually had to fight Eon on his own, he would have lost at least Ultimate Swampfire, and Waybig in that fight. And because Ben 10,000 was there to help, he probably didn't lose any more. It would have been a really interesting situation if Eon shows up and Ben has to lose like 6 aliens, with 2 of those being ultimate forms, just to like defeat Eon the same way by destroying the Hand Armageddon in order to now be able to fight. And then he just doesn't have them until Ben 10,000 maybe shows up later in the arc and fixes the Omnitrix for him by linking them or by just putting in the code he does normally. But then you look at him in Omniverse, and he actually is fighting Paradox, a being who, by all means, we all consider very powerful in the verse. He's so powerful that he can't even interfere in the first time Eon shows up in Ultimate Alien. Eon's like, you can't interfere, and you know why. Like, Time Walkers apparently can't interfere in certain rulings. We do see that a few times throughout the Ben 10 universe, but like he does fight Paradox in Omniverse multiple times, so he's able to at least contend with him because Paradox isn't able to use his time powers in these situations. So, just looking at that, I believe Eon is technically the strongest version of Ben 10 that he can be. And my own fan theory for Eon is because Race Against Time was when he was first introduced as a Cronian. Maybe he was a Ben 10,000 because that's how old he is when we are revealed to that twist, who was trying to become Ultimate Ben, like the Ben 10,000 from Ultimate Alien. And he's also probably not on good terms with Asmus, so he's trying to hack the Omnitrix, and he tries to go into Clockwork or a Chrono Sapien. And it fails. He goes hybrid between both Ultimate Ben and a Chrono Sapien, altering his body a little. However, at that cost, like the Omnitrix couldn't stabilize and ultimately, let's just say, self-destructs. And because it's only been like 2 seconds, it's not going to destroy the universe. And he permanently is stuck in like a Cronian form. And he sees all these other Ben Tennysons as he travels through cross-time, literally destroying, being like saviors and like cheered on by the masses. And he just kind of gets spiteful, and that's why he hates all the Ben Tennysons. That's kind of my fan theory for it, but you can see this. He fights Ben 10,000. He fights Paradox. He's now, after the Hands of Armageddon were destroyed, an Ultimate Alien can travel both cross time and down timelines. So we see how powerful Eon is, and he definitely deserves to be on this list, even though sometimes he feels a little more jokey of a villain. At 7, we have Maltruant, the big final bad guy of Omniverse. He literally is able to defeat Ben 10,000. He's able to fight on par against an upgraded Clockwork, and Clockwork is Ben's alien, and Ben's alien versions of Chrono Sapiens or any alien species are the strongest of theirs, and that's why Maltruant, who's a mutant, is able to still contend with the upgraded version of him. He is just very powerful, and I do say he's probably stronger than Eon. It could go both ways. It's tough with time powers. There's so much time power shenanigans in the Ben 10 universe, but I feel like just his final villain status kind of pushes him above Eon in some respects here. I don't know, maybe Eon with the Chrono Navigator might jump him or jump multiple spots on this list, but he needed a big bang to destroy him. It says something with how powerful he is. So that's Maltruant. I don't have that much to say on Maltruant. He's a fun villain. He's a good villain. not really that fun, but he's a good villain for the series, but just quite frankly, 7 feels good for me here, and you might be like, that's too low for Maltruan. But you can see who I have above him. So, on that note, moving on to number 6, we have the ultimate bad guy for the Ultimate Alien series, the Dagon. And yes, the Dagon is a letdown in Ultimate Alien. He shows up for like half an episode, gets tricked by Vilgax, and then Vilgax gets his power. And but he does defeat George really easily by like tricking him with lightning. Obviously, that might just be more just George being an old fogey and not really understanding the tactics that the Dagon was using. But we can see the Dagon literally shrinks down to Ultimate Way Big size. And Ultimate Way Big is probably the 4th strongest alien in all of Ben's history catalog, because he doesn't have Ultimate Way Big in his new Omnitrix. But he didn't have Atomics in his last one. So that's why I'm saying it's like iffy that way. But I feel like most people agree he's 4th behind Atomics, Clockwork, and Alien X. And Dagon takes him down like he's nothing, after literally shrinking down to his size just to kind of show his superiority. Ultimate Way Big is strong, and even though he doesn't really feel like he is, because he only shows up once and he just gets defeated really easily, that doesn't take away the feat that this happens. Also, I'm not sure if this was ever confirmed, but in the Charmcaster episode, when literally Ben, Gwen, and Kevin would have actually died to like Charmcaster's machine, he seems to be the old one who's able to use magic enough to trade all the souls in Ledger Domain for Charmcaster's dad. Obviously, Charmcaster's dad like revokes the spell because he doesn't want to come at the cost of billions of lives. So gets reverted and all that. Honestly, I think that Charmcaster, if you count the machine with her, could have made this list too. It's like the only option is maybe above like Sir George. And then it gets kind of hairy there with everything. But you could argue she's close. I didn't put her in the honorable mentions because like the machine and Ledger Domain both have to be there. It's not a feat on her own or like a weapon that she can kind of brandish wherever. But we see how strong the Dagon is. We see he power-ups Vilgax. The Esoterica work under him. And I'll get to this later, but he's so powerful that Vilgax is literally like telling Ben when Ben has Dagon's power that he could literally just think about removing all evil in the universe and it would work. It doesn't seem like that has anything to do with the Sword of Azimuth or the Ultimatrix. So just inherently Dagon's power alone is able to literally remove all evil from the universe if you wanted to, or remove all whatever from the universe. So that says something about the Dagon's power and why he definitely deserves to be in this upper echelon of Ben 10 characters and strength. And honestly, 6 could be low for him, but a lot of the characters above him are kind of like unproven feats that we just know are really powerful. So on that note, move on to number 5. And number 5, we have the Nulgen, who shows up in a single episode because the Nulgen Destroyer toy gets sent down to Earth, and Ben, Gwen, and Kevin have to fight it for like the whole episode until this being shows up. And this being literally is like, you shouldn't use this. This is like my child's favorite toy, despite literally being so devastating for the main characters. And the Nulgen is literally just able to instantly defeat it. Also, they can travel between dimensions on their own and can see in at least 26 dimensions. As I mentioned, only 26 that matter, not we can see through 26 compared to the 3 dimensions that Earthlings or humans can see currently. I wonder how many dimensions Azimuth can see through, but whatever. We don't ever get to see the Nulgen fight, but the fact that it's considered a children's toy, what that destroyer is, really implies these beings are very powerful and definitely deserve to be somewhere on this list. I did put it above the Dagon, but it is tough. The Dagon conquered 100 dimensions, and I don't know, could the Nalgene have been in one of those dimensions at the time? They are able to travel between dimensions relatively easily, while the Dagon was stuck behind the seal for a long time. So I feel like that slightly edges the Nalgene up above the Dagon, but I feel like they are close to each other in relative. Like I said, we don't really have much to go on with them, so yeah, I just put them at 5 to be safe. Next up, we have the Contumelia, which literally go around to different universes and build them. They use the Annihilargs. They ultimately only show up in the end of Omniverse to watch as like the Maltruant versus Ben and Rook fight occurs. However, with all that being said, despite that, the key thing with them are they're fifth dimensional beings, so you can only see them in the form that you kind of okay, I'm literally just stumbling on my words right now. You can only see them in like your most favored form. You cannot see them in their actual form because they're just higher level beings, which you could argue makes them should be higher on this list. But they use technology, and I'm not going to take that as a thing against them, but they need to take technology in order to remake or destroy a universe. We see that Alien X is able to remake the universe in Omniverse after one of the Annihilargs goes off, which implies that they're not on the level of them. As well as we see Scourge use an Alien X sword hand to break through that force field, which Maltruant believed to be impossible, implying that at least Celestial Sapiens are above the Contumelia. So yeah. But we never get to actually see them fight, so it's more just implied strength and skill. A lot of it's due to technology, but they could be higher, they could be lower. We just really don't know. At number 3, though, we have Paradox. And you might be like, the Contumelia or the Nalgene or even the Dagon could be stronger than Paradox. However, Paradox has multiple really good feats, which I think the biggest one is in Forge of Creation, when he goes into the Omnitrix, seemingly the headspace where Ben is talking with the two spirits of Alien X, Bellatrix and Serena, and they notice him, and they can't agree on anything, but they both are instantly agreeing that we are going to punish Paradox for breaking the treaty with us. Then he also takes Ben out of Alien X, which is a feat in its own right, and then I guess that silences Serena and Bellatrix, because you feel like that's an omnipotent being that they are. They could hypothetically still punish him despite Ben not being an Alien X, but who knows? Maybe he's that powerful. On top of that, he has a treaty with Celestial Sapiens. Celestial Sapiens are essentially the gods of the Ben 10 universe. We see the whole point of the Agrigor arc is he is trying to get to the Forge of Creation to absorb a baby Alien X without like the two personalities within it, so that he can use it. And if he does, we know that Asmodeans take 10% of whatever being they absorb, unless you do it the Agrigor unique way, where you can get 100% to make Ultimate Agrigor. And if he gets 10%, Asmus believes he'll essentially be nigh unstoppable in the universe, outside of maybe Celestial Sapiens and, I don't know, maybe the Contumelia. But Paradox has a treaty with them. Paradox is not below their notice, which says something about how powerful he is. On top of that, the Chrono Navigator, which he has in Omniverse, is very powerful too. That so much so that Eon looks for it. Has a whole episode where like Ben switches personalities and essentially with his younger self. So while we don't get to see many amazing Paradox feats, the fact is he has manipulation over time. When he fights the hybrid, he's able to literally like slow them down and just walk by while they shoot at him, and then they just shoot at themselves. By manipulating time, he's also able to essentially move in super speed, which is something you could argue for Clockwork too. And while you could say Maltruant or Eon are both other time users or manipulators that could be relative, they don't have like the celestial sapien feats or some of the implied feats that we always see with Paradox, and that's why Paradox is a lot higher than them. We also don't know, there's apparently like a time council, and that could be higher on the list, but we never introduced to them, so for all intents and purposes, Paradox is the end all be all. And number 2, we have the Celestial Sapiens as a race. It's the first just full-on race that we have on the list, but like, what can you say? They're literally omnipotent. They're the gods of the Ben 10 universe. They can literally remake universes whenever they want, can do whatever they want, assuming that they can agree on it within themselves. Not like they need a council of them to agree. It's just any individual Celestial Sapien can. And you're probably wondering, if they're number 2, who's number 1? But we'll get there. We have the honorable mentions first. So, there are a few honorable mentions I decided to do. The first honorable mention is Ultimate Humongosaur, the self-actualized one. From the Ultimate Sacrifice episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, we see that Ben has the self-actualized Ultimates that are trying to destroy Ben in order to get their own freedom. Then Ben does the Ultimate Sacrifice, hence the title, in order to set them free. So now those 6 Ultimates in Cannonbolt, Big Chill, Humongosaur, Echo Echo, Spider Monkey, and I think I might have not said Humongosaur, are all now free. And we could all see how powerful Ultimate Humongosaur is in its own right, but he's able to throw way big. He's also assumably gets some of Ben's knowledge, and Ben has amazing fighting IQ and prowess. You can see the difference between when Ben uses the Omnitrix versus Albedo, or when Azimuth takes it. For the Primus episode, he can't defeat Vilgax despite Ben doing it all the time. So, given that he has some of that, plus everything we've seen, I've seen lists that show Ultimate Humongosaur somewhere around the 8th to 10th strongest alien in Ben 10's Omnitrix. And you could argue he might not make the list. He's definitely not close to the top 10 in terms of power. But I feel like there is a huge drop-off after you get like through 12 on the list. And you could make the argument that after that power decline, Ultimate Humongosaur does deserve some recognition, especially as he's not Ben anymore. Next we have Malware. I feel like we all know what Malware did. He had a whole arc to himself to be focused on. He destroyed feedback when Ben was a kid. And his ultimate form was literally able, or not really ultimate, but like final form Malware was so powerful that it took feedback, who is a stronger alien than Ultimate Humongosaur, with literally all the power of Galvan Prime Mark II, or the Galvanic Mechamorphs homeworld, to destroy Malware. He is very powerful. He kind of is a unique upgrade, essentially. And while I do put him above Ultimate Humongosaur, he's also not like as close to this top tier power list that we see here. Next up we have Ultimate Kevin. I feel like both of these variants are the ones that actually matter. Ultimate Kevin from the Omniverse series is able to maintain his rationale somewhat, unlike Ultimate Kevin. However, Ultimate Kevin is able to defeat Ultimate Agrigor, who's literally defeats Ben, Gwen, and Kevin 5 times throughout the arc, while Ultimate Kevin literally like no diffs him. And then also he just has such versatility, and even though he doesn't get 100% of any of these aliens, the fact is he does have enough raw quantity of aliens in order to contend with the main characters. But all that being said, he falls behind self-actualized Ultimate Echo Echo, because that was probably a top 5 scene in all of Ben 10, when Ultimate Echo Echo literally like no to low diffs Kevin and is about to literally kill him, until Gwen talks him out of it. Like, Serious Ben from the Ultimate Kevin arc did not mess around, and Sonic Destruction is very powerful. Like, crazily. We also see that Ultimate Echo Echo is able to contain a nuclear blast with his sonic pulses. He doesn't get the cloning effect that normal Echo Echo does, but he definitely is the more sound focused of the two, where he's probably Ben's strongest sound alien. And I would say, if you're excluding Ultimate Gravitack, because Gravitack is stronger than Ultimate Echo Echo just because gravity is such an OP ability, I would honestly say Ultimate Echo Echo falls somewhere between the 6 to 8 range in Ben's aliens. And if you want me to, probably even if you don't, want me to make a video ranking all of Ben's transformations, I would be willing to do that. I'll throw in the Ultimates too, just because I do like the Ultimates. And Echo Echo is definitely the best. I'm personally partial to the UAF version of Ultimate Echo Echo. I just feel like it's too sloppy and it's too much for the Omniverse Albedo version of Ultimate Echo Echo. I mean, just look at this. He's so clean. Okay, but anyways, moving on. Next up, I believe our second to last honorable mention is Verdona. You can technically pick any Anodite. Dagon considers Gwen the strongest being on Earth during the UAF finale, and Verdona is the strongest Anodite that we see. So just inherently a being fully made of mana, thousands of years old, very powerful, realistically could probably defeat most of Ben's aliens outside of the very top tier ones. Verdona definitely could have made this list. Like, this is where we're getting to characters that actually could have made the list. Once we got past Ultimate Echo Echo and Ultimate Kevin, like this one and the next character would also realistically have made the list if I didn't want to include Dagon, Vilgax, and Sir George. I feel like that's where it gets really tentative with what I'm picking the order for. The other honorable mention that I feel like probably could have made the list is either of the Ben 10,000s. I mean, realistically, the Ultimate Alien one and the Omniverse one, not the classic series, because he just seemingly has Ben's normal aliens. I doubt he has Alien X, but if he does, he's also on this list. The fact is, both these forms have unique benefits and downsides. Like I said, if you watch my Ultimate Ben video on why I don't think it's a good transformation, the only possible benefit to it would be if he could hypothetically go Alien X without consequence because he's in his own personal body rather than in the Ultimate, into the Alien X form itself. And the Ben 10,000 from Omniverse can literally fuse aliens. He has Atomic X, but he's not stronger than Maltruant, because he struggles against him. We see like him plus Gwen from the future are not able to defeat Maltruant in that battle despite him using Atomic X. So Atomic X is definitely a lot weaker than Alien X on its own. And for that fact that they realistically can't be put above 7. So you could argue you could put them in the 8 or 9 or 10 spot, but quite frankly, I just don't see enough feats. We don't see them use Alien X in full control. And I feel like that kind of gives away what number 1 is. But number 1 is Ben Prime in Alien X form. He's the only character to defeat a Celestial Sapien. We haven't seen any other Celestial Sapien defeat another Celestial Sapien. So, and he gets full control of Alien X in Omniverse. He doesn't use it again after the Cervantes arc, where he just kind of uses it for no reason. But he's able to defeat another Celestial Sapien. He has full control over Alien X. I feel like the fact that he just is the only canonical character to defeat a Celestial Sapien puts him on this list as if only when he's in Alien X form. If he's not in Alien X form, regardless of what other alien he uses, even if it's Clockwork, unless he had like Ultimate Clockwork, he doesn't make the list as an alien. But you're probably wondering, well, what about all the other alternate Bens? we never see a single other Ultimate Ben use Alien X. We see Ben 23 reference that he has Clockwork, and we see Mad Ben use Waybig, but they are not strong enough to get him on the list. However, that's not what we're looking at. So you're probably like, this is a bit of a cop-out, putting just Alien X form Ben as the strongest character in the Ben 10 universe. So to be fair, I'll say where I'd rank Ben in his strongest form if we exclude Alien X. And that would be somewhere within the 5 to 7 range, because the strongest version of Ben we see is the Ben that just defeated Vilgax in Ultimate Battle Part 2 of Ultimate Alien Force. He ends up with the Sword of Azimuth, which literally puts George at 9, Dagon's Power, which puts him at 6, and the Ultimatrix, which has Alien X in it, but also all his other aliens, plus hypothetically an Ultimate Alien X, so we just would never get to see, because he not only has to have full control over Alien X, but he has to slap the Omnitrix on his chest to do it also. But it would be an interesting transformation to see. The fact is, he is so powerful at this point that Vilgax is like, you could do whatever you want. You could destroy all evil. That's just solely with the Dagon's power. That's not including Azimuth's sword, which is overpowered in its own right, and the Ultimatrix. Just Ben with Dagon's power alone puts him here, as well as, assuming he didn't choose to give it up, nobody would have been able to stop him besides maybe Paradox, who doesn't show up in that final fight, so he's not there. And Ben would have the time, unlike Vilgax, to actually train and understand Dagon's power on top of all these other really powerful artifacts he has. And that's why this is the strongest version of Ben if you exclude Alien X. And why Ben Prime deserves to be on the list regardless if we're only looking at the strongest form of every character. I didn't expect this video to go on for 32 minutes, but I'd love to hear your opinions, especially on where you believe Ben Prime should go, or if you believe any of the other Ben 10's from the multiverse should have made this list over some of these characters. But I just personally feel with like Sir George and Vilgax with Dagon's power, it's tough to move them off the list, especially for other Ben 10's, when they just don't have the top tier characters and abilities that we have. Also, I just realized, apologies, the Contumelia and the Nulgian are both races or species, so Celestial Sapiens aren't the only species on this list. Sorry if I said that. I just thought about that way. I made the Celestial Sapiens slide the full page to kind of emphasize how powerful they are, while everybody else only gets like a small section of a slide. So yeah, if you like this video, please check out my other Ben 10 videos or my other videos. Most of them are anime based. And like and subscribe. Peace out.